For this next assignment, we're going to make a transition from using coils of clay to using sheets of clay. So we've used the pinch method, we've used the coil method, and now we want to transition to the slab method. There's two kinds of slabs. There's a soft slab and a hard slab, and we're going to use soft slabs for this first assignment. And the assignment is to make a mug. The criteria for that mug is, first of all, on this handout that you can find in Canvas. You can print that off. Mainly the top half contains the criteria. Bottom half has some variations for you that you might want to add to that. But the mug itself needs to be at least 5 inches tall. It does need to have a little bit of a belly to it. And there obviously has to be a handle attached to it. The foot needs to be nice and round on the bottom, and the lip needs to be nice and round on the top as well. And then there also has to be an impressed pattern pushed into the clay also. So if you're working in the classroom on this, you have access to all sorts of things to impress those patterns. So this little honeycomb design came from this little rubber stamp pad. This I made a slight variation to. It looks like the mug I just showed you, except I put a little spout on it to make a little syrup pitcher or a creamer. And this pattern was created with this stamp pad. I also have other things that you can roll into the clay to create patterns as well. But if you're at home working, then you have to get a little more creative with whatever it is you're going to stamp into the clay. So to start with, we need to make a sheet of clay. So I've got this this chunk of clay here. It's a little bit too thick right now, to make a pot with. So I want to roll this out to make a nice thin slab. At school, I have a slab roller similar to this one, but it's bigger. So you can use that to create your slabs, or I'll show you another method where you can roll some slabs out. So I'm going to keep a piece of this for later, but let me just show you how to use the slab roller that I have at school. I'm going to start by flattening out my clay a little bit more. So it's fairly thin, less than a ½ inch thin, down to ½ inch, I guess. Underneath the canvas that's on the slab roller are some boards. You want to have all 4 boards in the slab roller. The canvas then goes on top. Open up that canvas. Place the clay in between the canvas and then run it through the roller. If possible, you want to make sure that canvas doesn't get bunched up or make wrinkles, because it'll put a line right through your clay. So there I have a really nice looking sheet of clay. Okay. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to pull my slab roller aside. Because if you're home working on this, you're going to have to roll your own slabs at home. Now I got these sticks from a paint supply store, so these can be used as guides to help me get a good thickness to my slab. Now this is not enough clay, to make your mug, but I'm just showing you this as an example on how to make slabs. I can use these 2 sticks if you have access to these. I have these in the classroom if you want to take some home, if you're doing work at home. What I can also use though are these 2 hangers. They have about the same thickness that those sticks have. So I can use those on the side, and I'm just going to use a piece of PVC pipe. You could use a rolling pin from your kitchen, even a glass bottle. And I'm just going to start to roll this out between these 2 hangers, just to make sure I have a good even thickness. After every roll, I'll flip it over so it doesn't stick to my table. And eventually I can have a slab, that has that nice even thickness to it as well. So you can make some nice slabs at home. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Let me grab my sheet of clay that we'll be using for our mug. All right, the next step I'm going to do is to add some texture to this slab. And again, I'm at home working, so I don't have access to all the things that I have in the classroom. So before excuse me, I had to grab my tools. Before I add texture to it, I'm going to take my metal scraper and just compress that slab down a little bit. What this clay likes to do when it dries is crack after it's been stretched out like that. So compressing it, again, just using the round end of my metal scraper. Flip that over, do the same thing on the other side. That will help prevent any cracks that may occur when it dries. Okay, now I need to add some texture to it. Like I said, if I was at school, I'd use one of these rubber stamps, put it on there, apply some pressure, make a nice pattern. But I don't have that here, so I found this little plastic golf ball in my garage, and I'm going to actually just roll this over the clay and create a little dot pattern, which I think will look pretty cool. Just keep rolling that around. Just gonna fill up the whole surface. Let's move it over here. That's pretty awesome. Another thought I had was this screwdriver handle. Thought that might make a nice little design as well. Just take that all the way across the clay. Okay, now I'm going to need a container to wrap my mug around. So you're going to have to find something. Again, at school I've got lots of containers. If you have a pop can, that works perfectly, or a pop bottle even. But to make sure the clay doesn't stick to the container, I'm going to take a paper towel or a piece of newspaper and wrap it around that container. And I'm going to get a little piece of tape and and tape it to the container just to hold it in place. So making a mug is really quite simple. It just has a lot of steps to it. So if you need a reminder of those steps, then just feel free to keep watching the video again. All right, now I'm going to use my needle tool to cut the height of my mug here. And to help me with that, I do need a straight edge. So I'm going to use this stick, or if you have a ruler, the edge of a book, whatever it might take, to create a nice straight line. And then, like I said, it needs to be at least 5 inches tall, so if you have a ruler that you can measure with, that'd be great. I'm just going to make it as tall as my slab here. So I'm going to measure just by using my fingers to measure the end of this slab. I'm going to make a mark at the top and then continue that mark all the way over. That way I can ensure that I have a slab that has an even height all the way across. If I don't, if this gets narrower at this end, then my mug won't match up when I wrap it around the container. Okay. Now let's see how much of this slab I'm actually going to need. Take my container, wrap my slab around it. Okay, I've got extra slab here. What I'm going to do is cut this slab so that it's slightly wider than it needs to be. You can see right there where I put that mark. So it's a little bit wider, and I'll show you why I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this off and then cut on that mark. All right, what I'm going to do, I want to create a lip that's even all the way around. But to create this belly, I have to have clay that overlaps. And when I have clay that overlaps, it gets extra thick. So what I'm going to do is actually cut the clay so it bevels at an angle like my fingers do at one end. And I'm going to cut the clay so it bevels at an angle opposite on the other end. So when I put those together, it creates an even thickness all the way through. That way, when I push out the belly, it's going to support itself. If I just butt the clay up against itself like that, when I push out the belly, it will open up, okay? So it's really simple to do. I'm just gonna take my needle tool and slant it at a little bit of an angle and just slowly cut through the clay at an angle. Then I'm going to flip it over and cut from the same side, again, just slowly at an angle. Now I'll bring my container back.